Hello everyone. Happy Sunday. It is me. So before I jump into the material, first of all, hello, say hi. If you're hopping on live, say hello so I can say hi to you. If you're watching the replay, say hello so I can greet you. I'm just going to take a moment to share out this video to one more spot, and then we can dive right in. All right. Hey, I see some people are hopping on already. All right. So I had made a post on my personal page that I woke up today with a vision given to me that I felt was going to be important for me to talk about. And it was tough to decide. Hi, Danny. In the moment, I couldn't decide if it was a dream or a vision, except for the fact that it felt implanted. So for those of you who don't know the difference between dream or vision, or something coming from you or not coming from you, there's a way that I tell. It's difficult to put into words, but it might be helpful for you if you're developing your ability to channel and you're trying to figure out what is coming from you versus what is being given to you to talk about. So when something is generated from me, it almost comes, it's a stream that comes from things I've been thinking about. Okay, so typically it'll be like I was either watching something or thinking about something, or something had come up in the previous day or days. And so then I end up generating in my dream state or in my between dream and awake state a series of thoughts, scenes, whatever, that correspond to a theme. When something is implanted, it comes from literally nowhere. So you weren't thinking about it, your mind wasn't on it, it wasn't necessarily something that you were in your conscious mind, but all of a sudden it is front and center, and it's a very clear image with very clear feelings. And in my case, because I've been doing channeling work for a long time, I can tell that difference very easily. If you're just starting, this is going to be very confusing, and you might still be in that in-between space. It just takes practice, it takes time. An exercise that can help you with deciphering that is journaling everything that you dream, or everything that comes to you between the dream and awake state. Because when you're journaling the things and you're tracking what's happening, you can sometimes tell a theme between how your own consciousness works, processing information, and how your guidance works when you're receiving information. My guidance speaks very differently than I think. The dialogue is very different, the words used are very different, the images I get shown are very different. And again, I've spent years tuning this by doing readings for other people, by doing readings for myself, doing channeling work. So now I know the language and the distinctions, but it could take some time if you're just starting doing this. So I realized that it was implanted because of the way that it was presented to me, and because there was nothing that I was doing that was even related to what came through. And I want to take a step back from talking a lot about the 3D events that are happening on the planet, which I do on Fireside Friday chats, and you can watch them every single Friday. I go live and I break down things that are happening in current events that I think are important, that we should be looking at, versus maybe what the mainstream narrative is talking about, okay? But in this video, I want to kind of pull back and talk about the energetics of what's happening above the third dimensional part of what's happening on this planet. And this frequency shifting that we are experiencing feels as whiplashy as it does in the third dimensional reality. Okay, it's not any easier for those that are really tuned into this feeling of the 4D or the 5D expression, and those of us who have the language for talking about awakening and ascension, and it doesn't feel any easier. Those frequency adjustments have felt very abrupt, and they've felt for a lot of us like being in a constant roller coaster situation where you're just lifting and dropping and you're almost being jerked around. A lot of physical issues are coming up for myself and other people that I know, a lot of purging happening in the body, a lot of night terrors, nightmares, psychic attacks, anxiety attacks. I mean, it is on high right now, okay? So it is very important that those of us who consider ourselves light workers and also offering red pills to people in our reality about what is happening, understand the importance of integrating the third, the fourth, the fifth, and not being stuck in one or avoiding one, okay? What I mean by that is I see a lot of people in the conscious community who are very strong, words, I cannot think of words today at all. Activists, very strong activists who are very much talking about the physical things that are happening on the planet and advocating for them, and which is fine. That has a role and a place. But there's another component to this, that's the 4D, 5D conversation, where we really need to be mindful that we're not advocating for what we think is right by way of arguing for our limitations or inducing fear and panic. I'm really struggling with language because I'm being shown like blocks of thought and it's not words. So bear with me so that I can translate what I'm being given. So the message for those who have chosen a very activist, third dimensional activist position is to be mindful of the fact that there is a spiritual component to what they are doing. And that spiritual component exists outside of duality. It's not stuck in the dual plane. So when we use polarizing language, or we intentionally insult other groups of people or hold them at arm's length from us, we are actually working against the ultimate spiritual agenda. Even if on the third dimensional, it seems like the right thing to do. Okay? Then there are the light workers, those that are working in the spiritual walks, who are ignoring the third dimensional drama, who are ignoring the fear, who are ignoring the anger, who are ignoring the very real darkness that has had intense manipulation and control on the planet for a long time. And they're just constantly talking about love and light, and they're constantly talking about, you know, the ascension, where we're going, but they're not addressing what has to happen before we shift into a different frequency as a collective. And that is also very dangerous for themselves, but also for the people who are following them and listening to their messaging, because it's almost undermining the effort, the presence, the diligence of all of us who incarnated at this time to have this experience together. And there's nothing wrong with addressing the fact that darkness exists in the world. Obsessing over it is another thing. But addressing it, I think, is important because we have lived in dual plane where both sides of all things exist. You cannot know what love and light and goodness is if there isn't an opposite of that. And opposing energy to that is the correct thing that they say. So is this making sense? Do you understand what I'm saying about being very careful and mindful to not be in either one of these camps where you are so much in the third dimensional realm that you are not integrating the spiritual agenda, or you're so much talking about the 4 or 5D reality that you're not integrating the third dimensional work, okay? Because it's all the one. It's together that this work is being done, not separate, okay? So I wanted to open with that message because that seems to be of concern. That's why I said in the title of this video, integration is so important. Integration is how we become mature and how we become wise. Because we choose to shift knowing where we've come from and what we've overcome deliberately. Okay? It's very important. So the vision that I was given, this 5D, it was a scene of just, it was a very quick scene, almost like the environment looked like I was in a marketplace. Like if you can imagine a farmer's market. That was the image that came while I was waking up. It was a farmer's market environment and everybody was milling about, baskets and bags and little kids. And the feeling of the image was very heavily community-based, very cooperative. People were handing each other things and sharing things, and there was this energy of goodwill. That was the best way I could describe it. An overwhelming energy of goodwill in the environment of people that were there together. wanting to help, wanting to support, wanting to cooperate, wanting to share, being very generous. And there was this flow. It was like nobody was bumping into anybody, even though it was a seemingly crowded space. Everybody was moving around everybody else with a lot of ease, like almost like this choreographed dance in the vision. And this sense of abundance. There was a lot of fruit, and there was a lot of food, and a lot of greens, and a lot of grains, and everywhere you looked there was just barrels of nutritious food, and there was no shortage. There was the opposite of that, just a lot of abundance, a lot of serenity in the image. And there was also something that was very interesting to me, which is this dynamic of the feminine and the masculine, which I have been studying for approximately a year now. And really understanding the divine feminine and the divine masculine, both sides within ourselves, but also as women, as men identified, and that divine feminine or divine masculine which we carry within us, and how that particular role, whether it's the divine feminine in relationship to the divine masculine or vice versa, is a very specific energetic role. It's not a physical role, it's an energetic role. This like receptivity to providing or action, the yin, the yang, that balance. Because I think it's a very fine line, and this is what I saw in the vision, was there's this fine line between wanting to be progressive and wanting to eliminate the distinctions of the divine feminine and divine masculine. That eliminating the distinction between those two things is actually dangerous, and it hurts us on a spiritual level. So in this vision, that was very prominent. It was very strong, this energy of two different energies working together, supporting each other, helping each other, relating to each other, in love, but also in community, in very balanced ways. And there wasn't this like competition or resentment or, I can do that better, I can be better than that, which I think I've seen in the feminine, in the movement of empowering women. I have seen that become a problem, where there is now like, we want to compete with the masculine. We want to compete with that masculine energy, and we can do that, and we can be better at that, but we aren't looking to be in our ideal feminine. We aren't looking to be the empowered feminine. We're looking to be the competition of the masculine, which is not where we should be looking for our evolution or personal fulfillment. This sounds very complex because it is. Like, what I was shown has no language, and I'm trying to translate it, and it's like very, very difficult. But just feel the energy of what I'm saying and let that sink into you, and then you can do a little bit of more exploring with that as well. I'm trying to see if they want me to share anything else really specific. Oh, there was also a lot of simplicity in that image, where I feel like we have for a while gone into a place of a lot of excess, a lot of like luxury excess. Not that having luxuries are bad. Living a very comfortable life is, I think, a goal for pretty much everybody. But there has definitely been this obsession with excess that has driven us to a point where we have become disconnected from appreciation or gratitude for what we do have. And it's kind of fed into this overly fast track lifestyle. So in that image that I was shown, there was a lot of simplicity, that people were dressed very simply. That's one of the things that stood out to me in the image, was there wasn't a lot of decoration on men or women. There wasn't a lot of patterning either in the clothing. Like, the clothing was very simple colored, simple layered, only what they needed, like shirt, pants, hat, maybe if it was bright. But they were dressed in a very simple, not super adorned fashion. And And that I thought was so interesting. I don't know why that stood out to me so much, but maybe because I've been feeling this energy of decluttering and cleansing in my own life and becoming more of a minimalist in a lot of ways, that really struck a chord with me. So that was the scene I was shown, a marketplace with people buzzing about in this really cooperative, abundant, generous energy, simply dressed, smiling, flowing around each other. The generosity, the abundance was just overwhelming. It was an overwhelming feeling of community that in a way I've never felt before in my life. So I bring these words to you, these key words, these key themes, so that you can begin envisioning that kind of a reality and helping the transition, because our collective energy matters. Our collective force is what helps us transition into this new earth vision that we are giving birth to actively. So if every night you're going to sleep, you can spend a few minutes just giving thanks for this new future where we are so cooperative and abundant and generous, and where we have stronger communities more than ever before, and we are flowing around each other instead of bumping into each other, instead of being abrasive with each other, instead of resisting each other. If you can start focusing some of your nighttime energy as you're drifting to sleep, which I think is a very powerful time, because when you're drifting to sleep with those elements in your mind, you are moving them into the subconscious mind, which is a creative mind, and so you are contributing all night long as you sleep to those themes. So that's why I recommend doing it while you're falling asleep, because I think it does have a stronger effect on the psyche and then on your creative ability. So that's what I wanted to share. I don't see any questions on the screen, but if you guys do have any questions, I'm happy to take them and talk about them. If anything I've said felt triggering or interesting, please feel free to ask. I will answer it. I'm having a hard time with language today. Today, I cannot speak with words. Just, it's a thing today. There's a little bit of a delay, so I just want to give a second and make sure that nobody has a question that I could potentially miss. Hi, Kobe. What is up? Thanks for hopping on. I don't see anything. Okay, so I will say this Fireside Friday coming up, I'm going to be talking about some videos, documentaries, things I'm watching that are more on this metaphysical tip, and other light workers who are doing this work of talking about the integration so that you guys can have those resources. I also, if you are a patron of mine, my Patreon link is on the screen. I polled my patrons about potentially moving a lot of this content onto a podcast. I kind of want to see where everybody is and what their opinion is on that. So if you are a patron, go to the Patreon portal and vote on that poll so that I can see what you guys would prefer for me to create. And then that would be something that I specifically create for patrons. All right, y'all. Have an awesome day and have an amazing beginning of your week.